Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, my co-host Ron Richards, Michal Rahman from Esper.io, and we've got an amazing guest joining us from Google's Messages team. Jan Yadriovic joins us to talk all about RCS and its Get the Message campaign that's aimed at Apple's support of the RCS standard. So we've got that off the top. Pretty awesome so far. Plus, I review the OnePlus 10T. Michal uncovers a few hidden nuggets in Android 13. We've got some Gboard capitalization tips from J.R. Raphael, your email, and a whole lot more. This is a jam-packed episode coming at you right now on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Collide. Collide is an endpoint security solution that gives IT teams a single dashboard for all devices, regardless of their operating system. Visit collide.com/AAA to learn more and activate a free 14-day trial today. No credit card required. And by ITPro TV. Are you looking to break into the world of IT? Get the introduction you need with ITPro TV. Visit itpro.tv/allaboutandroid for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use code AAA30 at checkout. Hello and welcome to All About Android. This is episode 590, recorded on Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
Hello, Ron Richards. It's
Hey,
good
Jason,
to see
how's
you.
it going?
Good to hear your voice. I love it when I can see and hear you. It's pretty awesome.
It is nice. It does work when both things work so well. And I'm so excited because we've got so many reasons to be excited to hear other people on the show this week as well, too, Jason.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those crazy times where there's this like confluence of events all happening in real time at the same time. What are we even talking about? So first of all, Wynn cannot join us this evening. Super bummed that she can't be here. I know that she wishes that she were here tonight, but we are definitely happy to welcome to the show Michal Rahman, Esper.io. Michal, of course, very familiar to fans of the show. Welcome back, Michal. It's good to see you.
Great to be here, Jason, and great to be finally doing regular contributions to All About Android, one of my favorite podcasts on the internet.
Oh, shucks. You didn't have to say that, although I'll send you the check in the mail. What is Michal talking about? Michal is going to be joining us once a month as a contributing co-host. So we're going to kind of cycle him in, similar to how you see Florence Ion kind of drop in once a month and has been going for quite a while. Michal's also going to be dropping in once a month. And of course, Michal, you write about kind of the nitty gritty, the under the hood stuff happening with Android all the time with Esper. And we just thought, man, we need more of your smarts and your expertise on this show. So we're just thrilled that you can do that. And so thank you. It's good to know.
Well, I love talking about Android, so
you do.
Anywhere where I can talk more about Android is music to my ears.
There we go.
Awesome.
There we go. Well, it's good to have you here. Congratulations and thank you. And we have more to reveal for you. I don't know if you saw or heard, but Google released kind of a marketing campaign this morning called Get the Message, all designed to kind of draw more attention to RCS. And we've talked about RCS countless times on this show, right? RCS it's kind of like SMS, but SMS plus. It brings some of the features that we're used to seeing in other messaging platforms, things like iMessage and WhatsApp, typing indicators, more rich images and video, higher quality video, that sort of stuff, all this stuff to SMS. So yes, it's SMS, but it's SMS with some extra features. And Google has been undergoing a big push to make RCS more widely accepted. And Android, that is absolutely the case. Most Android devices, I feel like nowadays, support RCS. If they're running, messages for Android, they automatically get that RCS support. Apple, on the other hand, and iOS devices do not support RCS currently. And, we talked on this show many times about how it would be great if Apple actually did support it. But why would Apple support it? There's a whole lot of pluses and minuses. Google also understands and realizes that there's a lot of pluses and minuses potentially, to this sort of deal happening where Apple would support RCS. And so they've got a marketing campaign called Get the Message that hit this morning that's all about kind of calling attention to this. And in light of that, we are thrilled to welcome to the show the head of product management for messages at Google, Jan Yadriovic, to the show. Jan, it's so great to get you here tonight. Thank you for taking time for us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel very privileged to be here. So many legendary Googlers, Hiroshi, Dave Burke, that have been on this show. So I feel super lucky to be here.
I love that
you get your own plaque in the gallery now, Jan. You're one of the big guys now. So welcome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Right. I love that you're the one that said that, Jan, and not us. That makes it feel just a little bit extra special. It's like, wow, that's awesome.
So and Jan, I don't know if they prepared you or if you're aware of it, but like as Jason mentioned, we've talked a lot about messaging and RCS over the years, but it is this topic is not only a hot button topic with us from a passion standpoint, but I know our audience, and it's been something, Jason, I feel like it has been a topic at least every few episodes for the past year or so, for the past couple of years.
Yeah,
now,
a couple of years.
Going through this. So we're really excited. I was super excited to see the Get the Message campaign hit, but when Jason was like, Jan's going to join us, I was like, oh, great, excellent. This is right in our wheelhouse. So we're excited.
100%. So let's start with kind of the reasons behind this. And then, we've got you for about the next 20, 25 minutes. So we thought we'd talk to you about all things, touching on RCS. We can talk about the campaign, but we can also talk about some of the pluses and the minuses and different avenues that touch on RCS, because there are a lot of places to explore. But let's start with the campaign first, because obviously this is a big push from Google. Tell us a little bit about kind of this Get the Message site that was launched this morning, the response to this. Like, what is the reason behind this? Why did Google and why did your team feel like this was necessary and needed?
So it's been a pretty exciting day.
Sure.
Lots of really positive momentum here. We made a decision to kind of move forward with this campaign and make our voice be heard clearly and, pretty out loud, because we felt that it's important for people to realize, both Android, but especially iOS, iPhone users, that, this is a problem that's affecting kind of everybody in a negative way. SMS is a 30-year-old technology. It deserves to be replaced by something more modern and something better, something that's safer, something that's more secure. And so we want to raise awareness, and we honestly just want to ask people to help us kind of like get this through to Apple, to fix this problem. And we're really hopeful that thanks to everybody's kind of collective effort, they're going to get the message and make the change.
And I got to admit, I was pretty blown away and surprised to see the proactive approach here with basically calling Apple out. How did that kind of approach come together? I mean, it's great that you guys you want your voice to be heard and you want to rally the community, but generally with these sort of things, they tend to be handled not as, let's say, proactive. Right? So why go in this direction?
Yeah, it is pretty bold, which I think is really testament to our level of conviction, and the feeling that we have that this is a good thing for users and for the mobile ecosystem, broadly speaking. If anybody wants to argue with a counter position, no, let's keep SMS alive. It's great. It's got a bright future. We'd love to have that debate out in the public, and make the arguments, kind of put the arguments on the table and have people decide for themselves. So I think it's really just a testament to the fact that we feel strongly that it's time to move forward. We have enough momentum with RCS. At Google I/O, we announced the 500 million active user mark. So there's a lot of momentum. We've spent a lot of the last few years aligning the whole mobile ecosystem around a certain standard, figuring out what the universal profile is and making sure that everybody has the same kind of configuration of RCS, which, might seem simple, but wasn't as trivial as it seems. So again, lots of good momentum. We feel like we have a strong argument, and we just want everybody to really be aware of what's preventing basic out-of-box messaging on every smartphone in the world from being secure, modern, and high quality.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have the point, and it's driven home really well with the site. One of the questions that I have is this campaign aimed at users, or is this campaign aimed at Apple? And I should also mention, like, I realize you're on the product team for messages, so you aren't necessarily on the marketing team necessarily. But who needs convincing more? Is it the people, so they go to Apple and they say, hey, I've got an Apple device, or I want to communicate with an Apple device and it's broken and it needs to be better? Or is this about like kind of pointing the finger at Apple and saying, look, we've made changes to make things better. You're the ones that are dragging your feet. Kind of, I hate to say public shaming because I don't know if that's necessarily it, but maybe that is it. But I don't know. Who is this really, really targeting most? Who needs this message more than anyone?
Yeah, I'd say a few things. So one, again, we want to make sure that Apple users, iPhone users, just realize that there is a solution to this. I think there's been a kind of in the past a bit of a narrative around, it's Android, users breaking group chats, for example, and that's really not true. That's really not the case. So,
right.
so we're hoping to educate, people who have an iPhone. If you have a not so great messaging experience with a family member or friend, it's not that friend's fault, and there is actually like a way to fix it. So that's one. Two, we are hoping that this campaign actually brings to light real stories of, bad experiences that people have. I mean, there's, being excluded from group chats. There's missing out on, important life events. I have little kids and I share, videos from their birthdays with, my family, my parents. And, if that video is super grainy and pixelated, it's kind of a lost opportunity to feel connected. So that's another example. And then, there are actually some pretty serious cases of, bullying and things like that for, kids that don't have the latest and greatest smartphone. And that's a real problem. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be the case that when you text somebody, you can find out what kind of phone they have. The kind of the shared standard that connects us all, which today is SMS, just needs to be replaced and upgraded. Again, it's the 21st century. It's 2022. It's really time for things like typing indicators and high quality media sharing and reactions to be something that people take for granted. This is not rocket science. This should just work.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, even, like all of us here, you're somewhat preaching to the choir. I mean, like we talked a couple of months ago about, what was it, in the Wall Street Journal, or what paper had that article about the bullying and the green bubble shaming that was going on?
Oh, that's right.
That.
It was a Wall Street Journal. Yeah.
It was a Wall Street Journal. Right. And so, we've talked a lot about that. And I know, Jan, just like as recently as this summer, I've been in chats where people have been like, why is the video pixel, like exactly what you've laid out here in 2022. But at the same time, Google and you guys on the Android side has, really struggled with messaging, let's just say, in terms of different messaging apps and things like that. So, while I understand RCS is a solution for everyone to kind of connect everybody, what makes this kind of approach different, coming off the heels of what Google's kind of spotty support for messaging has been over the years?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I will admit that, it's taken us a while to converge on, a single consumer messaging app. And I do want to just call out that, there's several years of hard work by a lot of people. And, just like a quick shout out to, our engineering team, which basically like turned what was just like a simple kind of utility into an actual product. Our partnerships team, which basically rallied the whole kind of world of the carriers, the OEMs, and the ecosystem around the single standard universal profile. all the partners in Android that trusted us to do this. So a lot of work has gone into getting us to where we are today. And so now we have a unified standard, a single messaging app, a set of capabilities like end-to-end encryption that make this experience kind of up to par of what users expect. And so yes, there have been previous attempts, but I think now we have real or demonstrated traction, and we have some real proof points to show for it. So it is pretty exciting. And the last thing I'll say is it is also great to see the growth and the trajectory. I can share that in the last 12 months on messages, we added more RCS users than 12 months before that. So it's actually like accelerating versus decelerating, which is really healthy and promising for such a large product. So lots of momentum. And if there's momentum, then that's a good opportunity to put more, fuel to the fire to accelerate it. So that's why we're taking a public stance with this.
Yeah.
I will say, as a user, the Google Messages app is my default app. And the first time I got a little thumbs up emoji from one of my iOS friends on something I texted them, and it looked seamless and natural, I did dance a little bit of joy. So like it
Yes.
it is working. So yeah. So
I also,
it is glad to see that progress.
Yeah, I also really love using the Google Messages app, and in the figure that you mentioned, Jan, the 500 million users using RCS is really impressive. But something I wanted to know, and I think a lot of power users, nerds like us on Twitter have been wondering for a while, is what if you don't want to use the Google Messages app for RCS? What if you want to use a third-party app like Textra or maybe some other app to send RCS messages? One developer on Twitter who we contacted, or who posted a question before the show, asked, why is there no RCS API on Android, and how are developers supposed to use it in their apps since there isn't one? Like, why can't third-party apps use RCS messages?
Yeah. So on that one, I would say, developing an ability for third-party developers to build on top of RCS is something that we continue to evaluate and assess. And honestly, the campaign, as well as the Google I/O moment, are actually, think of them as like stepping stones on a journey towards that end destination. And I'll give you a very concrete example around encryption, end-to-end encryption. So, the reality is that to deliver on the promise of end-to-end encryption, meaning, users can be 100% confident that the only people that can actually read the message are they themselves, and then the person that they're actually sending it to, and nobody in the middle, Google, your carrier, your internet service provider, etc. The only way to deliver on that is kind of a consistent, unified ecosystem. And it's hard to deliver on that as well as open up kind of broadly at the same time. And so we're taking an approach of kind of tackle one problem at a time. So the problem we're tackling right now is basically standardizing RCS, rolling out end-to-end encryption, and as some folks know, we rolled out one-to-one end-to-end encryption, and group end-to-end encryption is coming in the next few months. And then once we kind of get the foundation in place and the basics in place, that'll be the right time to assess. There's a variety of approaches, a variety of options. You can do something in Android and it takes a little bit longer. You can do something in Messages and it'll be shorter, but it comes with some trade-offs. So there's lots of options there. Again, we're taking it kind of one step at a time. And we do believe that it's important to put in the right foundation so that developers can build on a solid foundation of security, as opposed to kind of fragmenting the ecosystem too early.
There's that word. That F word. Yes, but understood. Now, the question that I have is actually kind of a two-part question. Obviously, perfect world, perfect case scenario, Apple supports this, and there's a lot of benefits. At least for Android users, I feel like we recognize a lot of benefits, right? Like, as the quote-unquote green bubbles, we see the downsides of being a green bubble when we're communicating with an iOS user, low resolution, photos and videos, not being able to be part of group messages, all these things. What is the benefit to Apple in supporting RCS? Is it just merely that yay, when this iPhone connects to any number of users out in the world, those users, whether they are on an iPhone or not, can be guaranteed a good experience. And is that enough for Apple? What is the upside for Apple in this?
I mean, it's a little bit difficult for me to really speak to their point of view on this, but I can say that, from our perspective, I mean, one angle is just consistency around, a public narrative around privacy, as a human right and security. That is obviously something that is really important to us. And we feel like kind of keeping SMS alive, which, that is de facto what you're doing by preventing RCS from really replacing it. That doesn't feel consistent to us. Making people be excluded from group conversations, that doesn't feel consistent with those values either. So, we're not arguing for there being, like preventing iPhone users from communicating with each other using, kind of the blue bubble protocol. That's perfectly fine, and that can stay in place. But it's really about like kind of lifting that shared common denominator and that standard that we all share between the different ecosystems, and making that more secure and making that higher quality. So, there seems like there's a bit of an inconsistency here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Another thing that seems to come up with a lot of these conversations around RCS is a lot of people outside of the U.S. instantly point to the fact that, well, this is a U.S. problem. Why are they even worried about, SMS and RCS and all these things? We're just using WhatsApp and whatever. It works over here. A lot of times outside of the U.S., that seems to be the go-to. Why is that so different? Like, that kind of puzzles me a little bit. Why in the US are we so locked into this idea that we have to continue using SMS/RCS versus using a messaging platform? And I fully realize, like, using WhatsApp, we talk also a lot on this network about, privacy and, just not calling out Facebook as the only target here. But, companies often are called into question as far as their intention around data and stuff like that. So using WhatsApp might not be the best solution either, because how are they protecting data and everything like that? However, that's aside the point that a lot of people outside of the US don't even care about SMS and RCS. So how do you convince them, and why is it different here?
Your question brings to mind, there's that famous meme of the girl kind of saying, like, why not both?
Yeah, why not both?
And honestly, that's the thing that comes to mind here. So we're definitely not, we're definitely not saying, and we don't think that messaging should be a kind of a winner takes all type of market. There's lots of very successful messaging apps. If you just take, the top 10, add up their monthly active users, you're going to get way more than the number of humans on Earth. So the reality is that most users use multiple messaging apps for specific purposes. Some are great on expression, some have disappearing messages, some are super focused on security. There's lots of different angles. And so we just, we believe that there should be a level playing field. Let the apps compete on, features, on latency, on delivery failure rate, all the things that we are super, super focused on and kind of obsess about on our team. And users can pick which features they like and, which apps they want to use for which conversations. Again, it's perfectly fine. And typically what we see among our users is that they use multiple apps for communicating with different people.
For sure.
And it's really just making sure that default, that thing that works out of the box. I mean, at the end of the day, a phone is a phone, and that means it can make phone calls and it can send messages. It's been that way for a long time, and that continues to be the case. So that default, it's great that there is such a thing, and it's also great that there is a way to communicate with everybody, right? Meaning you can send a message, and regardless of what phone they have, they can receive it. So we're supportive of that continuing to exist. We just want to make that better and more modern. And that doesn't prevent WhatsApp from being successful and building new features and competing with other messaging apps. That's awesome. We're super supportive of that.
Yeah.
So on the heels of that, and like talking about WhatsApp and also, talking about outside of the US, we heard from one of our listeners who's based in India who says that their WhatsApp rules, because text messaging is relegated to 90% spam and 10% one-time passwords. And so, he's asking, will RCS fix that? And is this going to be rolled out in India? But then at the same time, we covered on the show a couple of weeks ago how users in India that were using RCS got hit with a ton of spam, and Google had to turn off RCS to deal with it. So, are there obstacles with RCS that still need to be ironed out before an Apple or other platforms take it seriously? Or what is the global kind of rollout and messaging for all promise that RCS gives? What are some of the obstacles in front of it?
So I'll say a few things. I mean, one, the reality is that spam exists on every messaging platform, and that's obviously not an excuse to not do anything about it, but it's just worth kind of like level setting. Any large successful messaging ecosystem has spam, and some apps are more effective at dealing with it and others are less. We take it super seriously, and we took a somewhat drastic step, I would say, in kind of turning business messaging off in India and looking to relaunch it once we have the right product features in place to help make sure that users can opt out very easily, and that opt out is effective, making sure we have the right policies. So there's a kind of a learning curve here, I would say, and we learned some really useful lessons in India, and we're applying those lessons both to the Indian market and to other markets to make sure that doesn't happen anywhere else again. But again, at the end of the day, in any large messaging kind of ecosystem, there is going to be some spam, and we're really focused on making sure that we can lead the industry and the market in terms of how much of it we capture and how effective we are at protecting people from phishing attacks and things like that.
Cool.
So Jan, I agree with the overall message that you're trying to present here. Then I do agree that Apple, should support RCS in iMessage. But I think when people step back and look at the history of Google and messaging apps, there's a lot of ridicule there because Google has a long history with messaging apps and attempting to roll out cross-platform messaging solutions. Many of them have, undergone rebrandings or been canned. I wanted to ask you, why should people think that this approach, Google will stick with rolling out RCS globally, and this will be, a first-class product from Google? Why should people think that you're taking this seriously, and this is not just sour grapes at having lost the messaging war to Apple?
I think it's a fair question, and ultimately, I would love for our product and ultimately our actions to speak for that faith and that trust. What I will say is, this is by far the largest messaging app that we've ever had at Google. So that's at least one data point. I think second, the fact that we're taking such a public stance here is just testament to the fact that as a company, kind of across the board, we are really, fully committed to this and all in. As you alluded earlier, things like this don't happen kind of off the cuff and lightly. We're really thoughtful about how we communicate and what we communicate. And so in this case, we just felt that it's important enough of a topic to take a stance. And, and then third, again, there's this really positive momentum from a, user growth perspective. And that's always something that I think is indicative and highly correlated with products kind of sticking around and being here for the long run. Typically what I've seen personally is, the types of products that kind of don't make it are typically the ones that struggle to grow, are either, flatlining or declining. This is the exact opposite. We're growing very quickly. And again, it's testament to the fact that we're committed to this for the long run.
Well, I will echo that and thank you as a user, specifically in the messaging app for the personal and business filtering Gmail-like tools that you guys added to the messaging app. Those are fantastic. And like the growth in the app has been like really, really fast, and really it makes messaging with the app even that much more of a delight. So it is appreciated on our side. But we also, Jan, appreciate the time you've given us. I know this flew by, but you've had a very busy day with this new campaign, but we can't thank you enough for the time, and also thank you for the personal filtering. Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. That was an exciting feature to launch. And fun fact, that all works, on device. It's 100% secure. Nothing is uploaded to the cloud. So again, kudos to our engineering team for pulling off such a smart feature and making it work all on device. Is pretty cool.
Pretty sure Ron squealed when we covered that feature. When he first installed it. I think you installed it live on the show.
I didn't know. It started happening the day we were recording, and I was like, oh, because I didn't know what it was, and I was like, are you guys seeing this? Like, it was so cool. It was so cool. So
love it.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing, Jan. I mean, like, as you can tell, obviously, like our audience and ourselves, like we take this very passionately and something that we believe in, and and we really appreciate kind of answering our questions, and ultimately we're here because we love it, and because we want to see, I for one want to see unified messaging across all users. I don't want, I think this is one of those things, like SMS was so prolific because it was shared no matter what phone you had, and this is just the next generation of it. So we're cheering you on from your corner. It's just
Absolutely.
There's lots of aspects to this topic that are multi-layered. So we appreciate you answering our silly nerd questions. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, SMS, had a good run, and there's a computer history museum in Mountain View near Google's headquarters. So it's a great resting place, but time to move on from that.
Right on.
Nice closing
I
statement.
gotta go visit that.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a corner, and it'll be the SMS corner. I don't know what you put in that corner other than a big billboard that says SMS corner, but there you go. Jan Yadriovic, head of product management for messages at Google. Jan, we are privileged and so thrilled to welcome you tonight. Thank you for carving out time for us today, and best of luck with RCS and messages. We'll talk with you soon. And we will from here forth refer to Jan as friend of the show, because that's what we do when anyone is on the show. It's our way of calling out that you were once on. You are with other Google legendary figures. So
you're welcome anytime, Jan. Anytime you want to come on, just we're happy to have you.
All right, take care, Jan. All right, before we move on, let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android. And then we've actually got a lot to talk about. And by the way, I have a phone to review. I've been using the OnePlus 10T for a while now, so I'm going to give you a review. That's coming up later. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Collide. The challenge with device security has always been that it's difficult to scale, right? The bigger you are, the more edge cases you introduce, and the easier it is for significant issues to escape your notice. When remote work took over, not very long ago, that challenge got exponentially harder. So whether you're a fast-growing startup that needs to graduate from managing device inventory in Google Sheets, hey, we've all been there, or an enterprise trying to speed up service desk issues, you need visibility into your fleet of devices in order to meet security goals and, of course, keep everything running smoothly. But how do you achieve that visibility when your design team uses Macs, accounting is on Windows, and your most talented developers are on Linux? That sounds confusing, right? Well, you got to get Collide. Collide is an endpoint security solution that gives IT teams a single dashboard for all devices. That's regardless of their operating system, so it makes it really easy if you've got mixed office there. Collide can answer questions MDMs can't. Questions such as, do you have production data being stored on devices? Are all your developers' SSH keys encrypted? And a whole host of other data points that you'd have to write a custom shell script in order to learn about. And when you think about it, if a Linux vulnerability is exposed tomorrow, how are you going to figure out how many machines are at risk? You need to know that, right? Well, you just file a ticket with the team that manages your MDM and wait days to get a report back. Is that right? Send a mass email, hope that the Linux users actually open it? Well, with Collide, you have real-time access to your fleet's data. And instead of installing intrusive agents or locking down those devices, Collide takes a user-focused approach that communicates security recommendations to your employees directly on Slack. You can answer every question you have about your fleet without intruding on your workforce. All you got to do is visit collide.com/AAA to find out how. And if you follow that link, they're going to hook you up with a goodie bag. I got one of these goodie bags, pretty awesome, including a t-shirt in there as well, just for activating a free trial. That's KOLIDE, collide.com/AAA. Love having Collide on the show. It's a perfect fit. Thank you so much for joining us here on All About Android Collide. It's great to have you on board. Everybody check it out, collide.com/AAA. We thank them for sponsoring this show. All right. Things are out of order this week, but we aren't going to deprive you of your opportunity, Burke. It's time for the news. Are you ready?
I'm so not ready.
He's sighing. He is not ready.
Swing and a miss.
That's okay. It's all right. I only heard like 3 deep sighs during that interview when Burke hit the wrong button.
Literally thought 2 seconds before the show. I'm like, I didn't have time to even go.
It's all right. You don't need to.
The thing about it is Burke has one job to do on this show, and it's to do the news bumper.
That's literally the only job, is pushing that one button.
Literally all he's had
time
to do for the show.
So what if I don't press any of the other buttons?
Yeah, I know. See?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this works, Ron. I think we're good. Don't worry about it, Burke. You get the week off.
All right, thanks.
All
Great,
right.
because we got some news in the show here.
There we go. You didn't even need any annoying music to play.
But I do have that. I mean, that's the easy part.
All right, good. Well, you're right. Here we go.
There you go.
There's your news, and you'll like it whether you want it or not.
That was like, by the way, that was a 60-second vamp, by the way. But we got there. Eventually, we got there. Okay. So, Michelle, one of the awesome things about bringing you on once a month is that you do a lot of writing, a lot of investigative research. I don't know would you call yourself an Android investigative journalist? Is that what you are? Kind of are.
Well, I mean, nothing I reveal is nearly as serious as what political investigative journalists reveal. So, but I'll take it. I'll take the title.
Take the compliment, Michelle. Take the win.
I think, yeah, because we put Android at the beginning. So I think immediately everyone's like, oh, yeah, that operating system. All right. So we understand the severity of the information. But true, nerds of the Android platform, AKA people who watch and listen to this show, appreciate the kind of investigative journalism that you're doing, Michelle. So that's one of the reasons why it's great to have you on. And we talked a little bit before the show about some things that you've been working on that you thought were worth highlighting here. One of those things is Game Dashboard. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, because it sounds like maybe there's some changes happening as we move into this Android 13 world in a short month and a half. What did you find?
Right. So just for a bit of context, back at the for Google for Games Developer Summit, they have a lot of different summits all called different things.
Yes.
Back in 2021, Google announced the Game Dashboard and the Game Mode API for Android 12. So this Game Dashboard is basically this page that has like achievements and leaderboard data from Google Play Games. It has some shortcut to launch YouTube Live. It has toggles to show like a do not disturb mode and all these other stuff while you're playing a game. The problem is when Google launched this feature, it was exclusive to the Pixel 6 on Android 12. So there's only a single device that had access to this feature. And the new Game Mode API, this basically allows developers to specify, I want so-and-so settings to be applied whenever the user enters the battery-saving game mode. So this requires developer buy-in. It requires games to actually support this feature. But the problem is, because this Game Dashboard is only available on the Pixel 6, how many game developers are actually going to bother doing that? So what Google is doing is they're trying to pull this Game Dashboard feature out of the Pixel's system UI. So right now it's like hard-coded within the Pixel UI application on Android 12, and they're trying to expose it to Google Play services in Android 13. So the reason it needs the Android 13 update, even though it's already available on Pixel devices running Android 12, is because some of the APIs that this feature you use in Android 12 aren't available to privileged system applications. And it's kind of complicated to explain, but basically like the underlying APIs that it uses in Android 12 are only available to platform apps that are signed with the same certificate that signs like the rest of the build. But Google Play Services on a lot of OEM devices is technically not a platform app, because even though it's integrated by OEMs, it's signed by Google, and then it's integrated by the OEM, and then they build their system image. And so by exposing these APIs to system apps, then on OEM devices, Google Play Services can use all these APIs that are needed by the game dashboard and the game mode. So that's why on Android 13, we're going to be seeing OEM devices, or I'm assuming we're going to be seeing OEM devices based on, what Google is doing with the game dashboard feature that they launched with the Pixel 6 last year.
Interesting. And so like Samsung, just as one example, Samsung has its own game mode. When these kinds of things happen, because this is not the first time that Google has, baked into Android a feature that other OEMs like Samsung had already kind of figured out. In kind of historically speaking, when that happens, do we see a Samsung usually adopt the Google version or stick with their own? Like, you know what I mean? So that they kind of coexist. How does that often work?
This is certainly something OEMs are going to be debating. Do we stick with our own implementation or do we adopt Google's? So, a lot of OEMs, if you've ever used a gaming phone before, like the ROG phone, like their game dashboard-like feature is just way more robust. There's just like a 1,000 different things you can do with it. Whereas what you have on the Pixel is pretty basic. But basic is better than nothing. And a lot of OEMs don't even have like a game dashboard at all. So having this as an option on those devices, will give them something, give their users something.
Yeah. Also, Michelle, just to update you, it's ROG, not ROG. So I know they prefer ROG, but we prefer ROG. So I just want to make sure. I know you're new here.
This is the hill that Ron will die on.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to make sure to refer to it as ROG because I literally just this morning recorded an episode with the Asus technical director, on like gaming phones. So I'm like, it's ROG. He's gonna get harp on me about that if I say ROG.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also Asus. It's not Asus. So yeah. So just to get these things out of the way early on.
Honestly,
so,
it's all of the above. I just don't care anymore. I say what I'm going to say, and it's usually half of one, half of the other, and like whatever.
I just love playing with it anyway. But that's a great point because it's like that. Because I have like when I got my Pixel 6, I noticed the game dashboard on the limited games I do play, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a neat thing. And it doesn't surprise me to hear that the ROG phones have like a more robust one. And if you're an OEM that has leaned into gaming and has developed that, then keep it. As long as Google doesn't makes it an option on the OEM side and doesn't force the lesser version of it because that's part of stock Android. Like Android is all about choice, right, Jason? Like we've talked about for years. Like OEMs can make the choice to roll their own feature or utilize what's in the operating system. So, I think Michelle, you make a great point that, there are lesser phones out there who wouldn't even think of a gaming dashboard. So now it's baked into the operating system.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So that wasn't the only story we wanted to highlight here. And actually, I saw this next one. I saw you tweet this out earlier. And there's also a video that you included. And realizing that the video shows off what you're about to talk about, but still looks so weird to me. But I guess I don't have a stylus. So tell us a little bit about stylus handwriting support.
So there's this new developer option in 13 called like stylus handwriting. And basically what happens is that like right now, when if you have a stylus, you open it up and you try to use it in like an application, like you text on a text field, like there's no guarantee that the keyboard will automatically open up to the stylus handwriting. Mm-hmm. No way for apps to tell the keyboard, hey, I want you to open up in your stylus handwriting mode if the stylus is out. So what this API does is it lets keyboard apps declare that they're stylus ready. And it also lets apps, say that I want the keyboard to be opened in the stylus handwriting mode. So basically it allows for, say you're signing a document or something, right? Like you open a Chrome tab and you're going to sign your name on a document. Like Chrome can say open, because the stylus is open the keyboard app in a stylus handwriting, mode. And then the user can like do the stylus handwriting, and then that'll get sent to the app itself after the keyboard, processes it.
Yeah, and it kind of appears there's a video that I did link to in the doc, if you can show it, Burke, but kind of shows it happening in the tiny little web address field, which seems like a small area to scribble into. But I guess if you have a stylus, that would work, instead of requiring the big pad down at the bottom. And I guess I just haven't seen that before, but that's kind of neat how that works. Again, if you got a stylus, you can actually, like doing that with your finger, it might not work. Yeah, if you see up at the top there, there's the little, if you're watching the video version, the little squiggles in the URL bar. So yeah, that's
actually specific to Samsung. Like I believe that's called their S Pen to text feature. So like if you enable that, then you get like the squiggly bar where you can basically handwrite directly where the text field is focused at, or anywhere near it. But like the actual keyboard at the bottom where you see like that field where you can handwrite, that's normally what you'd get with like a keyboard app. So like if Gboard updated itself and had like a stylus handwriting mode, that's where you'd input your stylus handwriting. Got it. Okay. And that could, I'm wondering, I'm trying to think if this is one of those examples where Google's like building in stylus support because guess what? There's a stylus, supported Pixel coming in the future, but who the heck knows? I don't know that we've actually heard any hints of something like that happening outside of the Foldable or the Pixel. What is it called? The Pixel Folio or Passport? Pixel Passport. Yeah, that's what it is. Who knows? Maybe the Passport will have a little pen stylus that works with it. I don't know. But yeah. But is it, or is this just like an acknowledgement that the styluses of the world are not going anywhere? You know what I mean? Like, is it just kind of is it a nod to Samsung and to everybody else, where it's like, okay, fine, you want your little styluses, you can have them. So. you've been beating the stylus drum for how many years now? 10 years. Fine. Here you go. There you go. Well, speaking of Samsung, this was an interesting article that actually isn't within the last week. It's probably like a week and a half, maybe close to 2 weeks old. But a few weeks back, Errol Wright at Android Police published an article about how Samsung is supporting Google's own camera standards better than Google supports its own camera standards. And it turns out the Pixel 6a, so that's the new Pixel that just announced and came out, the Pixel 4a, even the Pixel 6 Pro, because the Android Police did their own testing on this to find out, don't support the CameraX camera standards that Google created. But Samsung supports them all. Samsung is like the shining example of like supporting camera standards, apparently. Now, Michelle, you noted that Google documentation also shows that no Pixel devices fully support CameraX extensions. Why is that? Is this laziness? Is this the typical story of Google's left hand not talking to its right hand? That sort of thing? What do you think, if you had to guess? So I think there's a combination of, many factors. Google, as an OEM of the Pixel devices, they're not nearly as big as Samsung. And I think also another thing, as you mentioned, like left hand not talking to the right hand. But one of the things that Google, like a Googler mentioned when they were asked on the issue tracker, like, why aren't you supporting this extension for CameraX when you are supporting this extension for Camera 2? And there's a difference, and it's kind of hard to explain. But they answered with, there were some capabilities that they were waiting on. The Pixel team was waiting on for CameraX before they could expose it, and it's all really complicated to explain. But the end, the takeaway is still that it makes Google look bad. That this is the API, CameraX. This is the modern camera API that they are pushing app developers, the majority of app developers, to use. And they provide a feature called extensions, which enables them, or the OEM like Google, to expose certain features like night mode, like HDR, like face retouching to third-party camera apps. And they want other OEMs to implement this, but they themselves are not doing it. And Samsung is, in fact, doing a much better job at doing it. So it's kind of like, you have one hand, you have the Android X, the Jetpack team who makes support libraries. They're saying everyone use this CameraX. It's the greatest camera API for Android developers. And then you have the Pixel team. It's like, we'll take our time. We'll support it when we can. Or, maybe technical limitations. But no matter what, it still doesn't look good on Google.
Yeah, when Google isn't kind of standing up to its own standards, absolutely. I feel like this is not a new story either. This has happened before.
We should have asked Jan.
Yeah, right. What do you think about this? Yeah, even though you're on a completely different team, what do you think about the Google camera standards? Nothing to do with what you work on.
Yeah, but what do you think? Can you send an email? Do you know who we should talk to? No.
Yeah, I have a feeling what his answer would be, and there wouldn't be a whole lot probably there. I doubt he's allowed to talk about that. But that is a bummer, right? Like if Google is creating these supports. Well, you know what it actually reminds me of now that I'm thinking about it? Kind of the material design time frame when it was like, hey, we've got this new design standard, and then it took months. Now with Material U, it was a little bit different story. I think they kind of learned their lesson to a certain degree, but with Material Design, it was like, we've got this new design standard. It's going to unify everything. It's amazing. It's the best thing since sliced bread. And then it took months for the apps to actually update to them. They weren't all kind of like playing in that category. And some of them, would match a certain aspect of Material Design, and other ones would kind of match a different aspect of Material Design. So there was no true kind of like unity between them, really just all like completely signing up for the same standard. So I guess at least in that case, it's different apps, so you can blame that on like, well, different teams, blah, blah, blah. But if this is just like camera support, that just makes me think like you had one job, like
like Burke, right?
Right. It's kind of like that one button that Burke pushes. Yeah, it's almost exactly like that. Yeah. So, anyways.
All right. Well, why don't we take a break and thank our next sponsor of this episode? Because this episode, the one you're watching right now of All About Android, is brought to you by ITPro TV. So you want to get the best possible IT training to accelerate your IT career from ITPro TV, whose edutainers make learning engaging and fun on your own schedule. With their virtual labs and practice tests, you'll always be supported and prepared for your exams. You can binge episodes in 20 to 30 minute increments. They have more than 5,800 hours of IT training that is always up to date with the most current content, which is important in this fast-paced world. Learn when and where you want on a desktop, Apple TV, or Roku, or hit the road with your tablet or mobile device. One reviewer says, it's the best website to study IT and cybersecurity related courses. I like the part where they make a few courses free for a weekend. And for August, that's getting started in IT free the weekend of August 13th and 14th, this coming weekend. Be sure to check it out. They're also featuring a free live webinar, All Things Cybersecurity with Ben Fink, on Thursday, August 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can check out past webinars on demand. New IT training episodes are added daily. Today, you can step into the booming cloud world with ITPro TV's AWS Cloud Practitioner Training. This course provides everything you need to pass your certification exam and get you on your way to a career in the cloud. You can register at go.itpro.tv/AWS-cloud-practitioner. Don't forget about your IT team. Check out an ITPro TV business plan with your team today. So head over to itpro.tv/allaboutandroid for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use code AAA30. That's itpro.tv/allaboutandroid and use code AAA30 for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. ITPro TV, build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks, ITPro TV, for making us better IT folks. We appreciate it.
Thank you, ITPro TV. You guys are awesome. And year after year, you're here with us. So thank you for that. Yeah. All right. It is time for some hardware, and not to mention just some hardware, a hardware review. Let's do it.
You got something cool, Jason.
I got something cool. It's cool if you like OnePlus. Do you still like OnePlus? How do you feel about OnePlus as a brand, Michelle? They've gone through a lot of changes. Are you pro OnePlus, or where you stand right now?
So I take the approach that I you really shouldn't be a fan of a brand. You should be a fan of products. Evaluate products individually.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of a brand, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
That is
Wow, Mashal's his own man. I like it.
That's a fair statement. I think that's a very measured and fair statement, actually.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that, especially in the era of people becoming just like total fanboys or fangirls over like Apple or Samsung, whatever, and everything that company does is great. And we know that isn't always the case, right? Sometimes they do great things. Sometimes, some aspects of their devices are not so great. So I think that's great. That's totally fair to not kind of blind ourselves with that kind of blind devotion to a brand. And I would say that OnePlus is a company that a lot of people have had brand devotion to. And that's probably part of the reason why in the last couple of years, I feel like I've heard more and more disappointment about the devices coming out because people are comparing the device that is now to the device that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever that history is, expecting more of the same. And especially with OnePlus, what we're seeing and what we'll definitely see with the 10, with the 10T, is that things have changed. And I'll get to kind of some of the ways in which that has changed. I'm not going to go into like your typical spec-filled rattle fest as far as this review is concerned. I basically broke it down into 3 categories: the good, the indifferent, and the bad. So the OnePlus 10T, $649. And basically, every year you've got your regular and pro release of OnePlus devices. And then about halfway through, they've got the T release, which generally tends to be less expensive than like the Pro that came out like 5 or 6 months ago, but has some upgraded features, still offers some things, might lose a few things. And that's definitely the case with the 10T. So let's start with the good. First and foremost, Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. So it's got the very current Snapdragon processor inside. Also up to 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. That is the configuration that OnePlus sent me for this review with this device. The charging is one thing that when you see a lot of reviews on this device, that's one of the top things that is called out. It is ridiculously fast. It's 150 watt super VOOC. Do they call it VOOC or VOOC? VOOC? I'm not quite sure. But they include the brick in the box because that is required in order to get those fast speeds. You could still charge this with the USB-C port and a standard charger. You're just not going to get those speeds, and by those speeds, I mean, I think if you plug this in at 0% for 10 minutes, you get somewhere around 50 to 60% of charge in 10 minutes. It's pretty ridiculous, which is awesome. In this day and age, battery technology tends to kind of throttle a lot of what we do with our devices and the longevity of it. So at least if you have crazy fast charging speeds, that gets around that a little bit. The display is very nice. It's a high refresh, 120 hertz display. It is 1080p, but it's a 6.7 inch display, 800 nits. So it has a reasonable brightness out in sunlight. And I think things just look really sharp in person. And I mean, I should have roped this with the charging, but the battery life itself is actually pretty excellent. I had many times where, a few times where I was driving long distances, navigating, and when I got there and looked at the battery depletion, which tends to be the hardest that I hit my batteries these days, I saw hardly any drop off on that. Not nearly as much as I'm used to seeing with the Pixel. The indifferent. So it's got the cameras on the back, right? It's got 3 cameras, and I'd say 2 of those cameras, which are the wide and the main, which is the main is a 50 megapixel and 8 megapixel wide. They're fine. What you're not going to see here that you saw on the Pro and even last year's models was Hasselblad iconography and Hasselblad branding on the cameras. And you don't get that here. There's no Hasselblad tuning. And I don't know if that's the specific reason why the images are are fine, but I did include a link in the doc there to a photo album with just a couple of photos, a couple of random photos that I took with my time with this device. And I'd say the photos, they were in great sunlight. Things looked really good. There was some low light, and actually I forgot to include some low light stuff here. But low light looked all right. But there's like some I really like some of those shots. I got these really great shots with like my daughter and a couple of other kids playing with bubbles and stuff. It was pretty cool. But anyway, some of the really bright shots just kind of feel a bit blown out, a little crunchy at times. I think the next one shows some henna art that was like, this is one henna image, and then if you go to the next one, I think it's a close-up. That one turned out really good. Just got some nice sparkle to it, really nice color distribution images. That's me and my lady. We were at an event here in Petaluma. Why am I blanking on the name of it? Anyways, doesn't matter. So anyways, pictures, I would say I wasn't like blown away by them, but they were totally usable. But then we go to the bad, which is that, yes, everybody's complaining about the macro camera, and there is a macro as the third lens on this, and I actually like macro. But, oh yeah, that was a slow-mo shot that I thought was cool. So that's a macro, and if you zoom in on that, which you can do in Google Photos, I mean, it might be hard to see on the stream, but there isn't a whole lot of clarity to the macro, and the focus. The focal distance, like getting the shot right, was kind of finicky. I don't know. Things just got muddier than I would like for a macro. I would hope that a macro would be a little bit sharper than that. So that was a miss. And then let's see here. Oh, so this is a big miss, or this might turn people off. So cut to the phone here. One thing you're not going to find on the design of this device, and this is another thing that a lot of people are calling out, and I think touches on exactly what you were talking about just a few minutes ago, Michelle, is that there is no alert slider here. So since I think the OnePlus 2, their devices have included a little slider similar to what Apple includes on iOS devices on the iPhone. And it's just an alert slider, allows you to go from, muted or silent to vibrate to volume on. And it's really been largely a signature component to OnePlus devices. And this is kind of the first of their more expensive models. I think some of their really cheap budget ones didn't have the alert slider, but this is the first of their more expensive models that doesn't have the alert slider. Now, OnePlus has said, don't worry, we're going to bring it back. We just couldn't fit it in here. There were too many other things. I can't remember their exact rationale for it, but they explained it away. And I don't actually know whether they're right or wrong, or, if that's damage or PR control or whatever. But I do know that, touching on what you were talking about, Michelle, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that I think that there's a lot of brand affinity with OnePlus, and that there has been, and things like this being removed tend to remind longtime OnePlus users of the sameness of modern OnePlus devices, how they're just kind of starting to blend in with devices of the current generation of smartphones being made by other manufacturers. Meanwhile, a couple of years ago, that wasn't always the case. Their phones actually really kind of stood out. Where do you stand on that, considering what you were talking about a few minutes ago?
So I don't know exactly to what extent like the merger of OnePlus and Oppo has like affected product R&D for like OnePlus devices, but it seems to me, since like after the first OnePlus Nord, first OnePlus Nord was pretty unique, but it seems like devices since have basically been Oppo first designs, and then using OnePlus as like a branding to market it overseas. Yep. Oxygen OS used to have its own distinct identity and was clearly, had a different code base than Color OS. Now it is basically just a visual theme of Color OS. And this is like great for OnePlus to save cost, because, operating in your own product R&D, designing your own phone and then developing and maintaining that custom fork of Android, Oxygen OS, is expensive. But now they can basically, start with Oppo R&D and add Oxygen OS, and maintain that OnePlus branding, that branding they've built up for a long time. Add a few features here and there that they think that might, appeal to their, semi-enthusiast audience, and then release the product. And you're starting to see some of these iconic identity elements being removed, like the alert slider from the OnePlus 10T. It was already gone from several OnePlus Nord phones, like the budget Nord N10 and Nord N100. And then the Hasselblad, they made a huge deal of that. They spent like a multi-million-dollar deal on doing that. And like, where is that? Why is that gone from this device? Like, I don't really know, but they're definitely. That's why I say, like, if you are expecting a brand to remain the same for every product, to have the same consistency, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because very few brands can do that.
Well, I don't know about that, Michelle. I mean, as somebody who does align with brands in a lot of different places, both in technology and in like record labels and like things like some like the relationship a brand builds with its customers is a special one, right? And you have people who want to be loyal to a brand and they want to be loyal for life. And inevitably not every brand, but in a lot of cases, we see the evolution go where that brand takes for granted that loyalty, right? Or they cut corners, or they have to make decisions that don't deliver on the same quality promise that made people fall in love with the brand for the first time and continue on with that. And it makes that relationship tricky. We've all been through that. We've been through this with Google and Android over 10 plus years, right, Jason? I mean, like things that we've loved and then things that we haven't loved. And it's like this like ebb and flow and emotional roller coaster of your relationship with the brand. But I do think that there, I don't think that aligning yourself with a brand is setting yourself up for disappointment, because there are cases of brands who continue to deliver on that and will. Admittedly, in technology, it is hard because people who are tried and true HTC people are really kind of feeling it now because of the turns that brand has taken. Sure. But the thing is, though, and I think the point you made earlier about how they've kind of in the wake of Carl Pei leaving and in the wake of Oppo and kind of the reunification of them with not reunification, but like the unification of them with Oppo, you have seen that kind of like the OnePlusness go away a little bit, and Oppo kind of taking advantage of what that customer base is. And you said yourself they probably spent millions on the Hasselblad thing, and now it's gone. I wonder why? Because probably the return wasn't there. Because like something happens in every mature business brand whether it's a technology company, a software company, a media company, anything like that, is it starts out, there's a lot of excitement, there's something really unique and special, fans fall in love with it, fans get loyal, and then it becomes a real business. And then bean counters come in, and spreadsheets and trending analysis and things like that, and then they have to make hard business decisions. And I feel like we're in this phase now, at the OnePlus 10, we're at this phase where them as a company, them and Oppo, in bed as they are maturing and making the decisions they need for the good of their company and their shareholders. So it's it definitely is tricky, but I don't think it always means disappointment, I guess, is my long-winded way of saying it.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if something like the notification slider, is that something that people will really miss? Like, I know people are very vocal about it. And I point it out because it's certainly something that I noticed, right? But when I really think about my time using OnePlus devices, and mind you, I've used a lot of them over the years, I really don't touch the notification slider. Like, I just don't. Like, I usually keep it on silent. But that's my use of smartphones in general. I usually keep my smartphones on silent, maybe vibrate. But it's just, so I guess everybody's using it differently. I wonder if the people who are upset about the slider going away are upset about it for reasons other than, I love the slider, why is it gone? You know what I mean? And I'm sure there are people that miss it because they love the slider. But I'm pretty sure there are other people that are sad to see it go because of how they feel it confirms their beliefs that OnePlus is losing its way, if that makes sense. And then just to wrap up on this review, fingerprint sensor, it's an in-display fingerprint sensor. It's really low. And so, which isn't the end of the world, but I actually had, that worked fine, but I've had issues unlocking from time to time that, it was kind of finicky for me. So that was kind of a bummer. You don't get wireless charging. You only get IP54, which is less water and dust protection than you got on the where are we now? 10 Pro and the 10. And finally, that charging, going back on that, it is a proprietary standard. So you have to have that brick in order to enjoy the 150 watt. And, in this day and age with USB-C and the USB-C power delivery, capacity increasing and improving, it's kind of a bummer that we still have these proprietary charging standards. But there you go. All things said and done, though, $649 for a screaming fast device, which is, I would say, what the 10T really is above all else. It's really, kind of focused on speed, be it charging, be it performance. And from that perspective, it really does a great job. It really delivers. You are sacrificing some things. But, $649, it's not a horrible price for a screaming fast phone. If that's your priority, there you go. So,
all right.
OnePlus 10T.
Cool. Well, so talking about brands that people are loyal to, Samsung is a brand that many people are loyal to.
Oh, yes.
Mike, And so here we are on the eve of Samsung Unpacked 2020, which is happening tomorrow if you're watching live.
Tomorrow, what time?
August 10th at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. For those of you who are watching live or listening to the podcast, very quickly as soon as it comes out, Jason and I will be live on twit.tv/live covering Samsung Unpacked 2022 tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you tune in. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, in a couple of days from now, it already happened. Go back and watch it. Go back and read about it. You can see all that stuff. But in terms of what we're kind of expecting to see tomorrow at Unpacked, we're expecting the Z Fold 4. Details had leaked on an Amazon listing that's been since removed. It's going to be lighter than the Z Fold 3 with no S Pen slot. Again, taking the case route for S Pen storage, with a wider 23.1 by 9 aspect ratio for the front. The same size of the phone, though, which is interesting. So we're curious about that. The Z Flip 4, we talked about this, I think, last week or the week before. The color customizations, the 80 different color combos that you can have. The design is looking to be strikingly similar to the Flip 3, although the hinge does look smaller. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about both the Flip and the Fold. And because both the Z Fold 4 and the Z Flip 4 have been worked to further reduce the crease this time around. So curious to see how Samsung spins that. We're expecting to see the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro with no more classic variant, no physically rotating bezel. Should have a capacitive bezel though, with a 572 milliamp battery being a big upgrade for that watch. And then lastly, Galaxy Buds 2 Pro with intelligent active noise cancellation, slightly smaller speakers compared to the latest version, and a rumored price of about $230. So that's what we're expecting to see. I hope Samsung surprises us though, Jason.
I wouldn't.
Enough to make it worth you waking up that early. Jesus.
I mean, I'm always for, watching what Samsung is doing. In the foldable game, at least here in the US, Samsung is really it. I mean, there are other companies that are releasing foldable devices, but
they're the biggest ones.
Samsung's got the pedigree at this point. They're kind of, in a coasting mode, right? They're not going to take very many chances with their foldables. The others still need to catch up, I think is kind of where it's at.
It's not just the US, by the way. Like, if you want a foldable phone outside of China, pretty much Samsung's your only option. Like, there are other foldable devices, the Oppo Find N, the I think Vivo X Fold, the Xiaomi Mi Mix Fold, but all of those are only available in China. Right. And none of them, like, it boggles the mind considering how good some of these products are, and like people actually like some of them compared to the Z Fold, but they're only sold in China. So if you want a foldable, it's Samsung. Yeah, indeed.
And Samsung has proven, they've definitely made some really notable improvements. I'm curious about, this talk about the crease being minimized. I don't know, that's probably going to be every year there's going to be like it's like the next Gorilla Glass, right? It's like, it's marginally better. Yeah, sure. Technically it's better, but you aren't really there's some sort of progress happening there. But But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'll be honest, I usually wake up around 5:30, 6 a.m. every morning anyways. So it's not that much earlier. I just have to not hang out in my pajamas tomorrow. That's the difference. So,
well, hey, listen, nobody's tuning in to see you in your pajamas. They want to see Samsung. So, if you're wearing pajamas from the waist down, I won't judge you. So.
I mean, you never know. There might be some people who are into that.
That's right. Good morning from the Samsung event. I've got my coffee and my pajamas. It's pajama day. All right. So as you found out last week, we have a new segment on this show, and J.R. Raphael from Android Intelligence brought us episode 2 of his tips section. We got that for you right now.
Hey gang, lovely to see everyone as always. Today I thought we'd tap our way into one of my favorite subjects to talk about on Android, and that is tapping in text on Android. Google's Gboard keyboard has gotten really, really good over the years, and the coolest part about it, if you ask me, is just the insane number of tucked away little shortcuts and time savers it is hiding in all of its little virtual corners. Now look, we could spend a solid 72 hours talking about this stuff, and let's be honest, sometimes I do, but for the sake of brevity today, I want to focus on one specific area, and that is the area of editing and getting text in the case you want. So first things first, grab your phone. When you need to capitalize a single letter anywhere on Android, remember this. All you've got to do to get any letter in uppercase anywhere on your phone is swipe up from the Gboard Shift key onto the letter you want. One smooth motion and boom, your letter's in uppercase. And as soon as you let go, the keyboard will automatically shift itself back to lowercase too. All right, next up, if you've already typed in text somewhere and you want to change the capitalization after the fact, check this out. You can just double tap the word you want to adjust wherever it is in any text field on your phone. That'll select and highlight it, and then you can hit the Shift button in Gboard. That'll turn the word into sentence case with the first letter capitalized. If you keep tapping Shift, it'll go to all caps and then to lowercase and just keep rotating among those different options. Really, really handy trick to remember. Now, if any of that stuff isn't working for you, here's the quick fix. Head into Gboard settings by tapping the gear-shaped icon along its upper row, go into the glide typing section, and make sure enable glide typing is activated. We're just barely scratching the surface here of Gboard's buried treasures and all the cool stuff lurking within it, but not to worry, we've got plenty of time. We'll get into lots more in the weeks ahead. And if you want even more time-saving tricks like these in the meantime, remember you can come check out my Android Intelligence newsletter. You'll get 3 new things to try every Friday and 3 bonus tips as soon as you sign up too. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit. That's androidintel.net/twit. I'll see you there, and I'll see you right back here for even more googly Android goodness next week.
Thank you, JR. I love that. I forget.
That's a good one.
I forget that because it happens all the time where I'll type something out and then I'm like, but I want to make that whole word capped. And then I forget how to do it. So then I go back and delete it and then turn on caps and do it. So it's nice to know how to do that after the fact. And I just got to compliment JR. We were all like commenting in Slack, like, we all love your shirt. Which basically said I was what did it say? I was huge on
Google Plus.
On Google Plus. There we go.
There you go.
That is a fantastic shirt. Got to get me one of those. Right on. There we go. What's that? Oh, did he make it? Oh, well, that's a cool shirt. That's a custom job, apparently. Good going, JR. Love it. You could probably put that on one of those t-shirt sites and do really well. Anyways, all right, we've got some email. We're going a little long today, so let us get into email here in a moment. AAA at twit.tv 347 show AAA. First email is from Chris M, who says, question for everybody or for everyone. What's your preference between stock Android or Samsung's One UI? I know they both have pros and cons, but I'm just curious what the panel's thoughts are between them and which one you prefer/use. For context, my OnePlus 7 Pro is due for an upgrade, and I'm trying to decide between getting a Galaxy S22 Plus now or wait for the Pixel 7 Pro release. Which one would you recommend? Ron, do you have a preference? I think I know your preference.
I would say the Pixel 7 Pro.
Yeah.
That's my vote.
I feel like that no surprise there.
I mean, my brand affiliation has been Pixel, so yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. What about you, Michelle?
So, I use a Pixel 6 Pro and I love the Android experience on it, but I would recommend One UI if you're a power user. One UI, just the sheer amount of customization options and the sheer amount of things you can add on to it is just amazing. Like, it is definitely the power user's OS.
Yeah.
But if you want something simpler, if you want like some really intelligent features that you can't get on other devices, like, the automated captions that translate between languages, or like, double tap on the back, or other features like the call screening, those are genuinely useful features you can't get on other devices, or they're not as good, then it's Pixel.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. I feel the same way. My preference for me is the Pixel. But you either love or hate how customizable Samsung devices are, depending on what the kind of user you are, or you're indifferent, or you're oblivious to the fact that you can't even do that stuff, right? Like, I think of, I have friends and family who have Samsung devices. They couldn't care less about customization, but they love Samsung's approach. They've just been with Samsung for years. Samsung is to them Android, right? And putting them on a Pixel would be a very different situation for them. But power users, like you said, Michelle, like, if you are energized by the idea of getting in there and setting a million different settings so that the phone is exactly your device and operates in a very unique way specific to how you use your device, you're going to get that in spades with One UI. That's just what that UI is all about. And then the Pixel is really just kind of like a set it and forget it. Although Google has some really helpful things that they're doing with AI to, predictive stuff and things of that nature that I appreciate. I don't need my device to be hyper customized. I kind of get a little annoyed with the Samsung, like the over customization aspect of Samsung. However, there was a version of me years ago that probably would have appreciated it a lot more. When I had more time to tinker with my phone, I probably would have loved getting in there and customizing it. So hopefully that one of those identifies your type of usage, Chris M. And thank you for writing in. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And our next email comes in from Scott from Parts Unknown, who says, so the Asus Zenfone 9 sounded really interesting as I combed through the specs. Then I hit a hard stop. And he wrote this in all caps, no wireless charging. Well, that sucks. Lack of wireless charging is a deal breaker for me. I have wireless chargers scattered all around, including my car mount. Not only is it convenient, but it saves wear and tear on my phone's USB port, which has a rubber cap to protect it.
Nice.
That way I'm only using it when absolutely necessary and I prolong its life. It actually seems like a disturbing number of new phones lack wireless charging. In 2022, I think it'd be table stakes, like having a fingerprint sensor. What is going on?
What is up with the lack of wireless charging?
Who are the ad wizards? I find this really interesting because, Scott, I'm not surprised to hear it, because those who I know who use wireless charging, like my father, are like obsessed with it, and it becomes like this key table stakes thing of it. Meanwhile, users like me who never quite got on board with wireless charging, I'm like, that's a gimmick. I don't necessarily need that. So it all depends on what you're used to and what your preference is. I get the sense of you've integrated into your life, and you've got all the charging ports and things like that. You want to be able to use it, which makes perfect sense. So yeah, but
when you've got those chargers scattered around and you've made the investment, you've set it up, and it's just the way it is, it would be hard to get a phone without. But I don't consider wireless charging a table stakes feature. Not yet anyways. I mean, maybe on premium. I suppose on premium devices I kind of do. Like if a premium expensive device comes out and it doesn't support wireless charging, that is a little weird to me at this point. But like, the 10T, for example, that's $650. It doesn't have wireless charging. And I think I can kind of understand why. Like, I still feel like that's a price range that you're not always going to get it guaranteed. So
yeah,
I don't know.
We would like to note that Scott is not alone. That Victor behind the scenes here is agrees with you. He's one of your people, Scott. So you and Victor can be bros and charge your phones wirelessly.
Wireless charging bros.
Yeah.
Well, my next phone, I will be getting the Asus, not Asus, Zenfone 9. Well,
you will be.
As an upgrade over the Pixel 6 Pro. Yeah, I plan on getting one, and wireless charging is not a deal breaker for me, even though it will be a bit of a hassle because I do charge my Pixel currently every night on the Pixel stand, and now I gotta like swap that out and start plugging it in every night. It'll be a minor hassle, but I get used to it.
Yeah. I even moved my wireless charger down to my desk away from the bed. So, the charging station that I use the most is bedside. When I go to bed every night, charge my phone. But I opt to plug it in there instead of the wireless charging Pixel stand. So for whatever that's worth, and even at my desk, I hardly use it. It's just not ingrained in me to use wireless charging. And I don't find it to be a huge inconvenience to plug it in, but that's just me.
Yep.
Finally, it is time for the email of the week. I almost lost my voice on that one. Paul Kramer from Woodland, that's northwest of Sacramento, if you're wondering, says Paul, has two things that he's writing about. So maybe it's two emails of the week. I don't know. Certainly deserves two horns. There we go. Okay, Paul writes, first of all, due to the now infrequent updating of my Samsung S10e ending entirely next year, I traded it in for a new S22. I've always used screen protectors on my phones, but the S22's in-screen fingerprint sensor hasn't worked with the two glass protectors I've tried. A TPU protector does work, but it doesn't stay in place very well at the edges when placed into a protective wallet. That's by Banjo Brothers, apparently is the one that he uses, to protect from rain and sweat while cycling. With Gorilla Glass Victus Plus glass on flagship phones, have we reached a point where screen protectors are no longer necessary except for the most fumble-fingered? That would be me. Do I recall correctly that Ron hasn't used one for years? What are your experiences? I do not believe that we are at a point to where a non-screen protect, I don't think that Gorilla Glass is at a point right now where you can expect for the display to not get scratched if you don't have a protector on it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I would like to note that I do not have a screen protector on the screen, and I can count at least 3 visible scratches on the screen that do not impact my use of the phone whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah. What do you think, Michelle? Are we at that point? Will we ever be to that point, do you think?
I think it's just, I don't think we'll ever reach a point where, if you consider yourself clumsy and you drop your phone a lot, you definitely will, for the free people feature, want to protect your phone. I mean, I don't use a screen protector on my Pixel 6 Pro, but if you need one, if you think you'll need one, definitely get one.
You probably need one
before it's too late.
If you think you need one, you probably do. So there you go, Paul. Your other point that you wrote about says, on another note, Samsung now offers a measure of battery protection with an option for the phone to limit charging to 85%. Before that came out, I purchased the Chargy USB dongles that fit between charger and phone. They allow for more flexibility via a companion app. For my relatively light use case, I put the phone on the wireless charger plugged into the Chargy overnight. It keeps the battery between 58% and 65% until near when I wake up, and then tops it to 85% to be ready for the day. I don't know what it means by unlike. You can set different limits if you like. A heavier duty user could drop it on the charger periodically during the day. For devices that can't run the app, the dongle can be set to detect when they approach 100%, the current draw diminishes, and cut off the charging power. I also leave the phone's built-in limiter on for those times when I can't insert a Chargy in the circuit. Details at chargy.org. So I'm trying to understand, okay, so there you go. That's a plug for Chargy. Apparently, Paul really likes Chargy. But, I know at least with the Pixel now, it does this also, right? When I'm plugging in over the night, I know that Google made a point to say that, it's not charging to 100% and then keeping it there for the rest of the night. It learns over time that I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning.
It's slow charges.
It's slow charges, and then right at that last half hour, it's like, and it takes me up to 100. And so I don't understand why the need for an external device then, if that's the case. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something.
Yeah, I've heard of this product before, and this is one of the debates I had when I was thinking, is this something we should be reviewing, or is this something we should be talking about? And, in recent years, a lot of phones, you're right, have been getting the ability to either automatically decide when to cut off charging and then, charge back to full, or they give you the option to set, but not every phone does this. And there are still a lot of phones out there that don't let you do this at all.
Yeah, that's true.
And in the Pixel's case, it's all automatic. What if you want to do it manually? What if you want to set a lower charge limit? This dongle provides, based on what the reader said, provides the capability.
Yeah. Chargy. So check it out. If this is something that you are interested in, go to chargy.org. I'm looking to see how much these are. How much are these? A shop buy now. Let's see. A Chargy Gold edition is $35. There you go. Or you can get a double pack or a triple pack or a quadruple pack. They have bulk packs. Anywho, chargy.org. Nice. Thank you for the review, and thank you for writing in with 2 amazing point/questions. You, Paul, are the email of the week. Congratulations. And with that, we have reached the end of this supersized episode of All About Android. I love it when we get the chance to talk to awesome people, and we got to. Well, Ron, you're awesome. You're always awesome.
Thank you. I mean, I know, but I've been here for a long time.
You've been here, so I'm used to your awesomeness.
Yeah.
Burke's awesome at pushing buttons and occasionally talking. So, Burke, you're awesome too. Michelle, you are awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Appreciate it.
Well, it's always fun to be here, and I'm, happy to be here monthly now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Esper.io. What do you want to leave people with? People to know.
If you want to know what's coming in Android, then you can follow me on Twitter. Like, if you're obsessed with Android, you want to know what's coming, definitely follow that.
Right on. And that's just Michelle Rahman, at Michelle Rahman. The one and only.
Yep.
All right, right on.
Of course, my blog posts, everything else on Esper.io.
Yeah, everybody should definitely go over to Esper.io. Check out your continuing, your ever evolving Android 13 comprehensive blog post. I can't remember there was an estimated read time of 80 or 90 minutes or something like that.
It's I think it's at 170 minutes.
There you go. I was shy. 170 minutes if you want to read this cover to cover. And it's evolving over time, right? You're adding to this as you discover new things and everything.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I have an in progress draft that's much longer. And as I add to it, as I have a batch of things ready to go, it's really complicated updating such a massive article. It has to be planned in advance. So that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Understood. Well, it's awesome. I love the work that you're doing there. And thank you for joining us once a month. So we'll be having you back next month. Also want to point out, we had another awesome guest as well earlier, Jan Yadriovic. I have a hard time saying his last name, but Jan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about RCS throughout the show. It was really fantastic. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell. Where can we find you, Ron, and what's the news?
Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RonXO. Love this episode. Talking to Jan was awesome. Having Michelle is awesome. I want everyone to mark your calendars. I'm not going to plug anything immediately right now, other than in the future, make sure you're here on October 11th. That's 10 weeks from now. Because guess what?
What?
That's our 600th episode.
October 11th?
Yes.
I wonder if it's going to be timed with the Google announcement.
If we're lucky, we've got something to talk about. That would be an
interesting kind of confluence of events. Nice.
We'll see.
It might actually end up happening.
Yeah, I know, right?
That'd
That's about the time. That is about the time.
That would be pretty cool.
Cool.
So tune in here in 10 weeks from now. It'll be fun.
All right. Sounds good. And until then, too. Don't forget, Club Twit is our ad-free subscription tier. All of our shows without any ads. You also get exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed content. Lots of stuff that doesn't make it to the standard podcast feeds. Pre and post show content, new shows like Hands on Windows, just a few examples, Stacy's Book Club. Plus, you also get access to a members only Discord, $7 a month, or you can pay for a full year up front, $84 per year if you do that. Twit.tv/Club twit. That is it for this week's episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. We do this show every Tuesday evening. twit.tv/AAA is the show page on the web where you can go to find all the information you need to know about Android. Everything's there. Podcatchers, YouTube, our live record time, everything you need to know. Just go there. And I think that's about it. We'll close it out, and we'll see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands-On Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.